Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this video. This is a first video in a new series called Chess Mistakes of an A Player. And the chart in front of you, the graph in front of you, is my rating chart, my rating over the last 2.5 years, I guess. Well, starting from the beginning of 2013 up until just recently. And in this period, I was A player the whole time. In 2012, I sort of bounced back and forth between Class A and Class B. But here I was pretty solidly as an A player. If you look at the low point here around, above 1820 and the high point here around 1930, we're in this band. But recently I've dropped below, and actually with my most recent tournaments I'll probably be back in Class B again. But during this period of time I was pretty solidly in Class A. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to correct this trend. You see, towards the end, I have this trend where my rating has just been dropping with each tournament. So I'd like to identify what mistakes I'm making and see if I can do something about them. And I thought I could do it in kind of a systematic fashion, going through the games, identifying the mistakes, classifying them to see what areas of my game need work. And then in each group of games that I go through, I could pull out some of the most interesting mistakes and show them to you guys. So that's the plan. And well, let's take a look at the first mistake. I looked at the first 10 games and found some mistakes and classified them. So I've done that part for 10 games, and I found a few mistakes that I thought were kind of interesting. This is the first one. I have the white pieces here. I see it's black's turn to move, and I just took a piece. I just took his bishop on g7, and he naturally takes back with his king. And so now it's white's turn to move, and white has a good move here. So why don't you pause the video and see if you can find white's best move in this position. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away now. The good move here is the move knight to f5 check. It's a fork. It hits the rook and the king, and so if black doesn't want to lose the exchange right away, he has to take the knight. And then you have this move queen g5 check. And there's nothing that can block that check, so the king has to move, and whatever square the king moves to, I can take the knight. So I get my knight back, and I've messed up the pawns around my opponent's king, and I should just go on to win this game. So let's back up to that position here where it's my turn to move. I didn't play this. Instead, I played the move queen f4. I did, I think, manage to win this game anyway, but would have been a simpler win if I had just played that move directly. And it's an example. So I want to talk about classifying the tactics. First of all, I classify them according to whether they're tactical or strategic, whether they happen in the opening, middle game, or end game, and then to what extent, if I can find the reason for the mistake, then I'll add that in as well. So this is in the middle game, and it's a tactical mistake, and the reason, I think, is that I wasn't using a good process. So I have some ideas about what a good process is for making a decision in a chess game. And it starts out with the first step is to kind of survey the position and look for tactics. Just see if you can identify all the tactics and threats in the position before you go on to think about what your next move is. And so I think I skipped that step in this position because this is not particularly deep tactics. So if I did a kind of quick survey of what are all the checks, threats, and captures, this should come up. This idea should come up because it's a check, and should cause me to at least investigate for a move or two. And it's only after one move that I realize that queen here check wins the knight back, and so it's a good tactic. So that's I would call that an example of a process failure. Okay, let's take a look at the next mistake. Let's see. This was later on in the game. I have the white pieces again, and my opponent has just played the move a5. and it's my turn to move here. And so you might want to take a look at this position. This is not so simple, I'll tell you that much. So you might want to take a look at this position and see if you can figure out what the best move for white is. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away now. I think I'm going to start by turning on the chess engine because actually this one is complicated enough that it's a little bit, it's easy to go astray. But there's one really excellent move here, which I didn't play. So let's show you what happened in the game first. I played the move a3, just defending the pawn. And now he trades. And then he starts attacking this pawn. And I go back to defend it. And the game ends up in a draw. I can never make any progress after this. The interesting thing about it is that if I don't trade in this position, the right answer here is to take the pawn. And you might think, I mean, that's certainly a move you evaluate. And I did, in this case, I was not really a process mistake. It was maybe not being able to calculate deeply enough. I certainly thought about taking the pawn, but I thought he could easily stop it, and I didn't see how this would be to an advantage. But if he brings his king over here to slow down the pawn, I can immediately play my knight to b7 over here and attack this pawn, which he can't defend. He's got a dark squared bishop, and he has a couple pawns that are on light squares. And it turns out that I'm using these pawns over here to distract his king, keep it away from the defense of these pawns on the light squares, and I can go on to win this game. Let's see, the chess engine recommends bishop here, going after the pawn, and then I can just take here. And now if he grabs this pawn with his bishop, I'm going to go here with my knight and take it. So bishop to f6 is suggested, trying to keep my knight out of this square. And then knight to d4, blockading and going after this pawn. Let's see, king to a6, and knight to c6, defending that pawn. So, like I said, it's complicated, but I've picked up a pawn here, and I actually have, with careful play, I have a winning endgame. So that's interesting. Now, if we wanted to try something similar in the line that I played, so he went a5, I went a3, he took, so I had to take back. And then he starts going after the pawn. So I don't have time to play this move, knight to b7, going after these light pawns. Let's see, I play king c3, he goes king d6. And at this point, I suppose I could try and go after the pawn here. I didn't try this, but bishop f6 check. Because my king is over here, I can't get to this square. Anyway, it just turns out that in this sequence, when I defend the pawn instead of taking, he trades, and I have a pawn here that becomes a liability to attacks by his bishop, and also at the same time he can use his bishop to control my knight and prevent it from getting back into the game. So interesting. So the concept here that I was missing, or that I didn't fully calculate, is the idea of taking here, not to immediately queen the pawn, but just to distract his king, gains a little bit of time. Let's see, another try here. Let's see, after I take. Suppose he doesn't move his king here, but he moves his bishop somewhere to try and keep my knight away from the b7 square, like bishop here. For example, controlling b7 so my knight can't come out. My knight could still come out to the f4 square, but also I could, actually knight f4 is the recommended move, or knight f6, starting to put pressure here. Let's see, now bishop here to try and keep me from coming forward. Knight to e6, hitting the bishop, so the bishop stays here. And now knight to d4 check. Let's see, I guess this is a winning endgame. I have won a pawn here, and he's got to do something to stop it. Let's play on for a little bit. Say he goes over here to try and blockade my pawn. That's the trick. He comes after my pawn, and I go after his pawns, and I'm a little closer. I am closer to scoring here than he is. Let's see. That was not the most accurate move. The most accurate move was king here, because this pawn will queen. So okay, that's the answer here. Anyway, is this after the move a5 right here? This is my one chance to win this game. I need to grab that pawn right away, use that to keep his king distracted. Also, it removes this target. This pawn on b4 is a target for the bishop, so it takes the tempo away from the bishop and allows me to get my knight into the game, and at the same time distracts his king. So that's why b takes a5 is the right move in that position. Okay, next game. Let's see, we're on move 37 here. I have the white pieces again. And my opponent just played knight to c4. Yeah, so this is another endgame. It's interesting that two of these tactics occurred in the endgame, and the other one occurred in the middle game. It's my turn to move. So this involves some calculation as well. So if you want to take a look at this position, it's white's turn to move, and see if you can find the right move here. I think with correct play, this should be a draw for white. And the move that I made actually loses. So this is an example of saving a draw. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away. The right answer is to play immediately bishop to f1, trying to keep his knight tied down. The move that I actually played in the game is very interesting. I played king to d1, and then he went with his knight to... he pushed the pawn forward first. And I had calculated this far. I thought at this point, I noticed that, if I move my king here, he's got knight a3 check, forking the king and the rook. So I can't move my king there immediately. But I thought, I would have time for this move, bishop to f1, pinning his knight to the rook. But he plays knight to a3 anyway, attacking my rook and defending his rook. So I took I took the rook off. I thought I should just be doing fine. Aren't I winning the exchange? He takes my rook, or at least getting rid of rooks, but I'm winning this pawn with king to c2. And now he plays the move that wins the game here. So this is how far I had to calculate. So if you can, if you want to pause the video here, see if you can find the good move for black that I missed. It's knight to a3 check. So that's the answer. And after this, I'm lost. I'm going to lose this piece. Let's see, I do get the pawn. So I was right about that, but he's got a piece, and I can't trade off enough of my pawns in time to hold a draw here. So this turns a draw into a loss. So what can I say about this position? What's the nature of this mistake? When I played king d1, I had calculated some of those moves, and I just missed that move at the end, that final knight to a3 check, hitting my king and winning the bishop back. So that's an example of just not calculating deeply enough. And so I wouldn't call that a process mistake. I mean, sometimes sometimes you only have a limited amount of time, so there's only a certain amount of how deep you can calculate. In other cases, it may be that you just need to work on your calculation skills and learn how to calculate that one move deeper. You know, if you have calculated up to a certain position, you want to pause and make sure, visualize that position in your head and see if there's more still going on in that position if you need to calculate one step deeper. So that's the mistake there. Okay, and then one more I wanted to take a look at. Let's see, I had the black pieces here. And this is a simpler one. Those other two The previous two are pretty complicated, but this I'll finish up with a fairly straightforward one. I have the black pieces here, and let's see. He played the move bishop to b5, pinning my knight. Okay, and I play a move here which is just a mistake. So this is a failure, I guess, at the end of the process. So the process starts with looking at the tactics, then coming up with candidate moves, then deciding on a move, and then finally the last stage of the process is to do a blunder check to make sure that the move you've picked out doesn't have any immediate flaws in it. So it's always a blunder check is always a good idea in any process. So this is an example of a failure of the blunder check. So the move I was thinking about was knight to h5, and that turns out to be a blunder. So if you want to turn this into a little quiz, why is knight to h5 a blunder? My opponent played one move and then I resigned. Okay, well, I'm going to give the answer away now. After knight h5, my opponent played the move knight to e5. So that's a counterattack on my queen. And now when I move the queen out of the way, I resigned here, but when I move the queen out of the way, then he can just grab my knight. And I was planning to take his bishop. That was the idea with knight h5, was he takes my knight, I take his bishop. But or the idea was that I was threatening. I moved my knight with a threat to take his bishop. But when his queen takes my knight, it defends the bishop. So that's the blunder check. And I'm just down a whole piece here with no compensation. So, well, that's it for this video. Why don't you guys let me know what you think. In terms of the statistics and these 4 problems I looked at, we had a couple examples of a failure of process, like a case where I didn't calculate deep enough. We had 2 mistakes in the end game and 2 mistakes in the middle game. And, well, I think that's pretty typical of the kind of mistakes that I make. So we'll see. I will start preparing some charts in terms of the number of mistakes that I'm making in different categories. And so anyway, yeah, let me know what you think of this video if you like this idea, and I will see you again next time. Bye.